All right, we got Jake Worthington here. We were just chatting about the big night last night. Marty Stuart kind of gave you the surprise of your life, it sounds like, if you want to talk about the Opry and all that and what it means to you. A real cool moment we captured. If people haven't seen it, it's on our Instagram and Twitter, and whiskeyriff.com, of course.
Yeah, Whiskey Riff was kind enough to videoed that moment, man. I mean, it's everything to a guy like me, you know. I mean, there's only two stages in this world that I ever, when you're worth a damn, you play the Ryman Auditorium or the Opry or the Houston Rodeo, and I got to do one of those things last night. With just some of the most incredible musicians on the planet. And that was, shit, man, I didn't think, I didn't ever think nothing like that ever happened for me. I mean, I'm so used to playing songs and music people don't want to hear, and so that was, you know what, man, I sat and I tried to figure out what song I was going to write or sing, or I can't put it into words, and I couldn't find any words in the moment. But my little brother, I seen that video y'all posted, and man, I've watched quite a few Whiskey Riffs podcasts, and I've watched a lot of everything else share, man, and I know y'all like to listen to country music, and I know y'all respect and appreciate it, and I'm grateful that there's something like a Whiskey Riff out there spreading the good news.
Love to hear that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did you kind of get your start in country music, and what kind of brought you into this world, this kind of neo-traditional sound that is quite frankly pretty rare in the industry right now? Just like straight out of the 90s, essentially, is kind of the vibe I get from a lot of your music, just real true blue country music. How did you kind of get started in that? What kind of kept your heart in traditional country music versus kind of adapting to some of the more pop sensibilities that might make you more popular, might get you on the radio a little bit more? Like you said, you're not used to people wanting to listen to your music. So kind of what has kept you stubborn in that sense?
Man, I mean, it's my experience has been a combative effort every step of the way. I never thought, man, I just wanted to make country music. When I did that voice stuff, I was having to figure out how I'm going to sing a real country song on TV. I know that term is so used and maybe not always understood. I think real country music is something that comes from your heart and sounds country. You ain't nothing you got. I personally don't believe you're anything you got to tell somebody you are. You just do it. And, since I was 12 or 13 years old, I was probably 13 years old when I learned, when I got my first real guitar, and I was going to learn, I was going to figure this shit out. And I still am trying to, I'm still trying to figure it out. But my granddaddy was my papa. I called him Papa Guitar. Every Christmas he'd pull out his Fender like it was a damn. He had a Fender acoustic guitar, and I've got it now. But he'd pull it out like it was like it was a daggum, 1940s Martin or something. You know what I mean? Like in the world of appreciating good things, I appreciate that Fender guitar, and I appreciate my papa singing me songs that a grown man would understand. And for me being a kid, at Christmas time we're singing "Bottle Let Me Down." That was my childhood, and
That's
so
awesome.
you know, like it's not something I Googled or, you know, don't get me wrong. I have taken advantage of, I mean, we live in a generation where we can find all of it, anything that ever was. Somebody went and posted that shit somewhere and we can find it. And you know, I'd be a liar if I said that none of that didn't have no influence on me, you know. You know, there's so many shows that I wish that I could have witnessed and experienced, but I never did. And early on in my, you know, getting into beer joints and really like, you know, getting in a band and getting a band together and I'm gonna do this for a living. Early on in that, I got to work some dates with Daryl Singletary, and and that's the greatest singer who ever sang a country song that I personally witnessed. And maybe it wasn't just his records that made him special. You know, it was what he did and who he was, but and his singing, obviously. But man, we were sitting there in Mason Saloon in outside of Houston. And you know, it's just a club, it's a beer joint. In Houston, you know, a club consists of some type of dance floor, 2 to 3 bars, and a stage, and some places to sit, you know. But we got to watch Daryl Singletary play live with I'm pretty sure 6-piece band, fiddle and steel, no keys, no nothing. You know, just fiddle and steel, and his bass man Phil Fry, and Ricky playing guitar, Tyler Hall playing steel, and a guy named Andy Varner playing fiddle. I can't remember the drummer's name, but I felt like I watched that sound check and me and my band did at the time, and it was like, holy cow, this is what country music sounds like. It can be done. And you know, that was a big motivator for me to try to find a way to be able to sing country songs that I love and that I understand and that I believe, and do them well, but do it with a band, you know, that it's not something that happened in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. It's something that's going on right now. And it's happening in so many ways, and more ways than just that I'm a part of, you know. So many of these cats right now that are getting elevated, for lack of better terms, are making their own music, and that's pretty inspiring for people like you, Whiskey Riff, to get behind that. And y'all got a pretty strong pull on that rope, you know. People listen to what y'all say and do.
We love when we hear that stuff. Joshua Ray Walker was one guy that talked about his gauging his Spotify plays based on when we put him in playlists and stuff. So when we hear that stuff for an artist we really like, I think it's always like a really satisfying moment for us. It's crazy too. I was looking up Daryl when you were talking because I was like, how long ago did he pass away? It's like 5 years ago, over 5 years ago.
Last song he
Jesus.
sang, this will give you chills. The last song he sang was at a club in Lafayette, Louisiana, at Cowboys. I've worked that joint. Had me some fun there. But the last song he sang was Old Violin. It's a Paycheck song, you know. And of course, you know, but I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. That's awesome. Yeah, it's crazy like how fast time goes. 'Cause I know we covered it when it happened, and obviously a lot of songs of his are on our new music or 90s country playlist as well. I wanted to ask you about Ronnie Dunn. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I would say such an underrated 90s country artist. You know, he's never like listed when you hear like, you know, people rattle off George Strait and Reba and you know, Tracy Lawrence and the like, but Daryl Singletary, man, so many good songs, great voice, great country voice.
Yeah. you're right. You know, I think that, I mean, obviously George Strait's king. Like I love Reba. Hell, you know, I love Reba. Alan Jackson,
If
and
you haven't met her, I'm sure
Alan.
she'll love you too. You seem like the type of guy she would love.
well, I can't wait to meet her. If that opportunity ever arises, I will. I'd make sure not to say nothing stupid. You
We'll say
know,
that for the podcast.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
Good
I was
God.
going to ask about Ronnie Dunn real quick too, because some of the names Wes brought up. You were on his album, right? I forgot which song that was. Pop Goes the Whiskey, or no, sorry, that was Ernest. You were on 100 Proof Neon for Honky Tonk Town,
Yes, sir.
Ronnie Dunn in 2022. We've had Ronnie on, I think twice.
Twice, yeah.
I mean, one of the coolest dudes ever.
Yeah, I mean,
Obviously we
he's
grew up on his
exactly.
music. Is he exactly like that in person and working with him? And because he just came off as like the coolest dude ever when we talked to him.
And he has been for me, you know. That whole thing come about because, you know, being signed here at Big Loud, Hardy does this Hicks tape record.
Oh, right.
When that record was getting put together, I was just signing paperwork, and of course that opportunity came, and I'd be an idiot say no. We cut a song with Jake Owen, and Ronnie sang on it called Jones, and Ernest wrote that song too.
Oh,
And that led on to getting to be on Ronnie's records. I was sitting at Seth England's house, and Travis Carter and Troy Johnson were with me, and Ronnie had reached out to Travis and said something about, you know, hey, we want that Jake kid to sing on this record. And I said, hey, man, you tell Ronnie I just say when. And he said tomorrow at like 6 o'clock. And I said, we'll be there. And by God, we was. We went to Steve Marcantonio's house. There was the engineer on that record. And I, oddly enough, got to work with Steve Marcantonio years ago for, or, you know, a project that never seen the light of day. But, you know, it was really, really cool to walk in that room and be needed. And, you know, somebody like me don't experience that all the time. And or if not needed, wanted, you know. And so I was, you know, sang the vocals in a closet, and had Ronnie Dunn is without a doubt one of, a standalone vocal, like nothing sounds like Ronnie Dunn.
Yeah.
Nothing.
You don't believe a word until you hear Ronnie Dunn sing, and you know, to have him, be hearing him in the cans like that, you know, that's a whole lot different than hearing him on the truck speakers and singing to him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so
That's awesome.
And Ronnie's just continued to be nothing but supportive to me, and it's you know, I ain't got words for it.
Yeah, I think when we first had him on the podcast, if I remember right, we asked him, you know, who are some of the young cats that he's like really listening to now, and he was singing your praises, and this was probably
right.
two or 3 years ago, maybe even.
Gosh.
So he was saying Jake Worthington, this young man out of Texas, great country voice, you know, how he talks, and he was Jake Worthington. You got to listen to him, man.
Yeah.
So he's been singing your praises for a while, and obviously it's
But
shown in
is he lying?
more ways than one.
What you think?
What was that?
Is he lying or is he telling the truth?
He's telling the truth. He could say anything he wants.
Also, just with your music, it's refreshing. I mean, the start of Whiskey Riff and then the growth, but like we kind of had that start. The music was in a weird spot at that time, set like 7-8 years ago. It was a lot of the Florida Georgia line. It was a lot of that. And then we've just seen that kind of, and Wes and I, like, I was born in the late 80s, as was Wes. Like, so we grew up on like 90s country. And then
Yeah.
it's that like grow up on the 90s country that's current because you're a kid, you're listening to it, you're getting into it. But then as you get older, you appreciate it more. You start going back and go, okay, let me listen to the stuff before I was born, even the stuff from the, the Merles of the world and stuff. So then we see these
One of
cycles,
those.
right? Yeah. Well, we see these cycles, right? And it's so when we start hearing people like yourself, Luke Combs, like for being as big as he is, it's like it still has some of that sound of the 90s, of the early 2000s even. I mean, it's like refreshing because we're inundated with just emails and songs and playlists and this, and it's like so much of it's bad, and then so much of it now is like through TikTok and this and that, and so it's like, yeah, you get older, you go, oh, this reminds me of this young guy like yourself singing songs that remind me of when I got into country music when I was 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, listening to it at the house. So it is refreshing for people like us because you could get really jaded and with the industry, with the kind of politics of PR and crap that we don't really fuck with,
Yeah.
luckily. Um,
No,
but
I
yeah,
get
no,
it.
so absolutely, like he knew what he was talking about. Ronnie did, I should say.
Well, man, you know what? Only thing I ever wanted to do, that moment I watched Daryl sing, it reminded it the feeling that you just articulated is the same feeling that I had. And man, I mean, to think that my music does that for somebody, it feels familiar, or sounds like country music to them, the way that they hear it or heard it. To me, that's a pretty damn good. That's a pretty damn good thing, and it's a hell of a compliment. And I'm not the only one that was involved in that. I wrote the songs and sang them, but there were so many people involved in making all that happen in a time where that seems to be a hard thing to do.
Well, it's authentic.
And
It's authentic too. I meant to add. I think some people are going to try now more. So I mean, they're already doing it. Like certain artists may now try to get into that. Well, maybe they're not going to do a whole album that sounds like 90s or a little old school, but let me just try a song here or there to kind of see like how, people like, but it's like, it's not authentic. If it's just, you're just doing it for like a thing, for like a song, for a single, for a TikTok. Yeah. But for you, it's like, I mean, anybody who listens to this podcast and just hearing you kind of just talk about life and music, it's pretty obvious. It's 100% authentic, and that's what we're all about here. So you're not trying to fool anybody. That's your music.
well, I'm grateful that there's an opportunity to, man. I'm grateful that something like Whiskey Riff exists. The podcast thing, and granted, I've taken advantage of being able to have the access to podcast as we live in this time, and hearing how somebody thinks in real time. That's what a gift that is to us. But these, as far as me doing them, it's been I don't not a lot of it, but I'm grateful. I'm really grateful. I'm sorry I ain't got the better words for it, but
No, no, no. I mean,
Yeah.
you probably already thanked us more than anybody ever has on podcasts. In a good way, in a good way. So I mean, that means a lot to us because sometimes it's a lonely business. It's like you get focused on numbers and money and growing and keeping the lights on and adding team members, but then keeping that North Star of what are we about? What do we care about?
Why are
Obviously
we
the
doing
music
this?
and lifestyle of outdoors and stuff like that we care about. So people like yourself make this a lot easier. And even like some of the fan questions that came in, it's like we always ask these, before the podcast, like fan questions, and yours were kind of all over the place in a good way. People seem to be really kind of just resonating with your music, and it's I think it has to do with some of the stuff you talk about. Like you mentioned, or we mentioned Ernest a couple times. Like Ernest is a super unique guy. We've had him on full as hell.
Two
You're
kinds of
working
riders.
with
Sorry
you're
for
open. No, you're
Ernest.
opening shows for him, right? And
Yeah.
how's that been? Like that guy's kind of all over the place now, and people are working with him.
He's all over the place, but he's right down the middle in one way, and that's on the song. You know, that there's two kinds of riders in this world, and I know what kind of rider Ernest is, and I think country music's lucky to have him.
Mhm.
Yes, he writes different kinds of songs, and maybe not all of them I'll sing on, obviously, but the one, the Pop Goes the Whiskey, yeah, I mean, ain't like I don't drink whiskey. It ain't like I don't smoke, and it ain't like I ain't. I think that everybody's experienced some sort of songs are supposed to be relative, and if that song's relative, that's a win. But it sure was damn fun singing on. I just believe in Ernest. I personally believe in what he stands for, and that's the song. At the end of the day, that's the song.
Yeah, if you his background too, we talked about it on the show, right, Wes? I think, but it's like you can put all that aside, and then when you start to see some of the stuff he's put out, or some of the collabs he's done, or some of the stuff he's written, it's like you can say anything you want, but that's legit, country, So it's one of those type
But
of things. It's not.
It's authentic.
Yeah,
To
exactly.
him.
Yeah.
In which it's authentic to everybody else. Like
There and do you ever get annoyed? Is there like just in general mainstream country, like sometimes, or not even mainstream, there's older songs, and it's like there's like so many segments of fans in country. Like some of them are so crazy about like everything has to be so traditional. Like it's like we love, Chattahoochee for Alan Jackson. Like we love that song. We make a lot of jokes and like in a good way about it. We love that song, and promote it in different ways, and meme or whatever. It's like obviously Alan wouldn't say, yeah, this is the best song I've ever written. Like it's a fun, like
Feel good,
upbeat,
carefree.
feel good song. It's
Yeah.
like every artist is going to have those. So it's like you can't just be like, no, everything has to be like this depressing, slow. Like you can
Grammy
have
winner.
that. You can have this fun shit. It'd be like Alan Jackson, who's barely ever had a co-writer in his career. My all-time favorite is Alan. So it's like, yeah, every artist has that. But when people complain about a certain artist getting bigger and kind of maybe releasing a song a little like that, that's maybe going to go to radio. It's like relax. It's one song. It's a young artist. It's like, do you sense that a little bit when you're on Twitter and some of this stuff? And
you know what, man? And I do not mean to say this like as if I'm not paying attention or trying to be caught up or just appreciating what's going on. But I'm so wrapped up in my own bullshit. It's hard to worry about other people's.
I mean, good for you. Good for you.
To answer your
That's
question,
it. Good for you.
well, I mean, not so much. Sometimes that's a hell of a day.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Not being on Twitter, I'm saying not being on Twitter, I'm envious. I'm
Not reading
envious.
the comments.
well, I get on there sometimes, but my phone. When forgets my passwords worse than I do. So some days I can sign into that son of a bitch, and then some days But I mean, you know what I like? What I get the most out of the social media world these days, in my opinion, I'm seeing more and more stuff that I would look for. I'm seeing more and
Yeah.
more country music, and like, what the hell's the problem with that? I think that's a great. I think it's a great thing. I think I don't. I was 17 trying to put a record out. I was 20 years old trying to put a record out. Never did. I put EPs out, and I'm proud of the work that I did in the past. But you know, everybody's got their own obstacles. When it comes to this stuff, you know, this ain't a hobby. You know, this ain't a writing songs and singing them and, you know, getting the chance to record in prestigious studios and all that. You know, that's always been out of my hands. It's never been in my hands. Never had the money for it anyways. But the songs, you know, you can write those anywhere, you know, but they got to come from the same place, you know, and you ain't nothing you got to tell somebody you is.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Did have a fan question here. Your go-to drink and hangover cure, if you have one,
What's my hangover cure?
or and your go-to drink if you have one.
Probably what I was drinking last night. You know,
And it
bite the
does work
dog
the
that bit you,
best.
son. Bite the dog that bit you. Realistically speaking, water. You know, a lot of sleep and water.
Yeah.
But that's the lazy side of me. You know, it's hard. You know, when I was coming into this stuff, you know, it's real easy to drink beer at any time of the day and get some stuff done. But that next morning, when you got to be up early after 3 or 4 of them nights, it's not always easy to obtain. You know.
Oh yeah.
And I like to have a good time. You know, so it ain't like I'm
Nice.
on myself.
Nice.
But I like a Bloody Mary. If I'm at the airport and I'm
Yeah.
going somewhere in the morning, I like a Bloody Mary.
Hair of the dog is the quickest way for me to fix it. I mean, maybe it'll be a problem later, but
Yeah, you just
Yeah.
we'll
eventually you
get
gotta
to that.
stop.
It depends on how early you wake up. If you wake up in the evening, then it's nighttime.
Yeah,
It makes sense.
right.
If you're
That's true.
if you're up and going at 12 o'clock before noon and stuff, that's you got a hair of the dog. You better
Yeah.
be off.
Yeah, you better be. Yeah.
Got to be off. I always heard in my household about drinking is like, if it ain't stopping you from getting your work and your job done successfully, don't worry about it. But
Alcoholics
I
Anonymous
can
would
think other
disagree.
people.
I love it. It's funny. Real quick before we let you go here, so we mentioned Ernest. You're opening some shows for him in the fall. You're also going to open for Lainey Wilson at Red Rocks, which is awesome.
Man, you know
What
what?
is that? Yeah, you got any thoughts on all that? It's pretty awesome,
Oh
right?
hell yeah, I do. I don't know what I don't. That's such a life-changing event. As much like I, you know, country music, the power of song, the power of songs is far exceeds anything I could ever imagine. And you know, uh, Lanny has always been really kind to me, and I'm grateful to get to be a part of a show that she's got going on. First off and foremost, and then secondly, to get to play a room like the Red Rocks.
Mm.
For me, my damn ass. If you played the Pasadena Rodeo and if Gillies was still around, that would have been a place to have played. And then like the Houston Rodeo and then the Opry and Ryman, like that was it. The Ryman and the Houston Rodeo, the Opry and the Houston Rodeo. Those are the stages that I grew up knowing. Like if you's worked the damn that you worked that room. But I also heard about these prestigious beer joints in Texas and dance halls that you could also, maybe it wasn't in the headlines of CNN or whatever the hell, but it was important, and you wasn't getting in them rooms unless you was worth a damn. And I've gotten to see a few of those, but not all of them. And I look forward to getting to experience those things. But I believe the same moments that happen, you know, there are just as important as any of the places I've named. But like to play Red Rocks, you know, that's a level up. That's a totally different ball game.
This is actually perfect because my wife's been annoying me. She loves Lainey. We live in Colorado, and she's like I didn't even know it's a September show, I think, right? It says September, yeah. So we got some time, but my wife's been bugging me about it, bugging me. I hadn't even realized that you were kind of the opener, so I think now is we're gonna have to maybe reach out to your team a little bit, get this situated so we can make it out
You
there.
know what?
We've been there, like crazy enough. My wife and I and my dog, we've gone there multiple times just living out here. It's not too far of it's like an hour drive from where I live, but it you can just go there. I don't know if you know, like when there's not concerts playing, because it's just such a beautiful area. People go hiking, people work out on the stairs, kids go there, like great views, all this cool shit you can do when there's it's just like open. It's just like a park. But then when it's a concert, it's a little different. So we've done that multiple times, but I haven't yet seen like a country, concert there. Well, we shared some videos of Zach Bryan there and Charles Wesley Godwin. I think that was in like the winter or close to the winter last year. And it was snowing like crazy, but it created this awesome environment where you see the literal red rocks and like people are all singing and hugging and wearing winter clothes. And you're just
and they didn't.
It's very hard to kind of, and it's like just one, like just straight up bleachers. It's just like boom, like up like this. It's like there's no venue like that.
Yeah,
man. Well, I'll tell you what, rain or shine,
we'll be reaching out.
By God, I hope you do. And if there's any,
we're due for a date night like that. We're due for a date night like that.
Room to hook it up, I'll do it. And if I don't have no room to do it, I'll call Lainey and we'll see if she'll do it.
That's what I like. I love that.
Yeah. We've had Lainey on 2 or 3 times of the podcast. She's a friend of the show.
Honestly, one of the only like.
She's the real.
She was just. I mean, she was so into it, like drinking bourbon at 2:00. Like we were just like, yes, because sometimes people think it's gonna be like a real.
And that girl's from Louisiana, dog. You can get as drunk if you want to in Louisiana, and they don't care the next morning. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sometimes people, I think, like aren't as familiar with the podcast world, and I think they're going to come on here and it's going to be a traditional interview, and then they get on and me and Wes are sitting here drinking, and they're like, "Oh shit! Like, should I have?" I see you're dipping over here, so we appreciate it. But like, people are just like, "Oh shit!" Like, I thought this was like no, this isn't a fucking cookie cutter interview. Hey, what do you think of your new album? Like, no, we don't do that.
We're hanging out.
I hear that, man. You know what? I mean, but that's been so good for, I think it's been great for the culture. I think it's been great for country music, the bullshit and the not bullshit, cutting the shit is what, shooting the shit. That's an art that a lot of people have forgotten about.
Yeah, and I just think in general for the music too, like from your side, it's like I just like we get approach it like sports a little bit. It's like people like opinions, right? You would never watch us. Yeah, but in music or traditionally in country music media, like for the most part, like nobody would really have an opinion. It would just be very like we cover everything. We cover everything top 30 on the radio, and that's what we do. And it's like, oh no, we can cover Texas guys that aren't on the radio. We can cover this and that, and that's when we really felt like I don't know, like way more excited about what we were doing because it was working, which was obviously important as far as like engagement and traffic, but it was also authentic to us because when we hit off on the pod or whatever, it's like that's what we're going to listen to. People like yourself, or there's Whiskey Myers. Like there's so many different types of sounds out there that really don't get promoted.
Well,
and then
even
we kind of came
Charles, I
along.
mean, we've been listening to him for years, and then he just signs a record deal with Big Loud, and
Mhm.
he's sky's the limit for that dude. And but it's like
I agree.
we've been covering him for years, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Well,
he's
and
great.
I think a
Go
lot
ahead,
of
sir.
people, I think a lot of people that was in the, that is in the industry watch y'all stuff. We all pay attention to it. I'm not gonna lie about that. We watch it, man, and not only that, I mean, who I can't imagine that all these people that are in the music industry aren't country music fans. You know, we're all fans first, and at some point, I mean, I would think.
I've met people at labels not yours. I would disagree with that. Where they don't even know you could.
Well,
Oh, you wouldn't
we
believe
can,
it. We could talk about it off camera, but you wouldn't believe it, dude. Some of the people at other labels that we've met, and you say Sturgill Simpson or Tyler Childers, and they literally look at you like you're an alien. They have no idea who you're talking about. Oh, that's concerning a little bit for me. That's a little
well,
concerning.
everybody's in their own world, brother.
Yeah.
Everybody's. I think part of the experience is not paying attention to the rest of the world and just uh doing you. And sometimes that can come across like you don't know what's going on, but like, do we really ever?
Yeah, I
You know?
wasn't referring to an artist. I was referring to like people kind of telling us what to say to an artist, like the PR people.
Oh,
Yeah, when
yeah.
they're telling us like the questions to ask on a podcast, and then I would like pick up on it. You don't even know anything about country music, and so I would try to like make them look, by asking them questions about like other country
Yeah,
artists, and
yeah.
they're just like they have no clue. So it's like if your job is to run a country artist's like image or whatever, and you don't know other, that's you're not doing your job in my opinion. As an artist,
I
I'm
can't say
totally
I
cool with that.
disagree.
Like a Coulter Wall, like that guy's on a ranch in Texas or Canada, and he's not listening to anything. I don't even know the guy has electricity. He won't even go on the Joe. He won't go on Joe Rogan's podcast. He doesn't do interviews. Joe Rogan, the biggest podcast in the world, bigger than Saturday Night Live, bigger than anything that he could put his
Bigger
music
than
out
Whiskey
to.
Riff.
Money
Yeah.
ain't everything,
No, but I think eventually Coulter will do it. I think
I think
he was
I look forward to, I think that's part of
people want to know
you
him.
can't, yeah, and what's wrong with it with somebody keeping closed? I mean, like,
I know it
quite
makes it so
frankly,
much more interesting.
correct. I
You're
mean, you don't. I mean, I grew up wondering what it was like to hang out with George Strait. I still don't know, and I still wonder. I think that's part of
we
that, and podcasts are as beneficial as they are the opposite sometimes, but I think that I can't say that I think that there's something wrong with the way that guy's thinking over that, because
oh.
we're sitting here talking about him.
Right.
I mean, that's our dream podcast, right, Wes? What is it? George Strait on a porch.
George Strait.
Excuse
Yeah.
me.
George Strait on a porch, sipping a little
Rocking chairs.
Codillo tequila.
Yeah. Hey,
That's
y'all
the
drank
But
that?
we
That's good
Oh, I
stuff.
love
yeah.
it. Yeah, we have it at the house. It's so smooth.
Oh yeah. Big fans.
What Wes? I don't know if Randy Rogers, was it Randy?
Randy and
That funny
Wade.
Randy and Wade, the golf story where they pronounced the rose, they called it rose, and
Yeah.
then he said rose and he just walked away or something. But
He
like
I
cool as hell, like cool as
I
hell.
think
Like
Randy went up to him and was like, "Hey George, I really love your rosé tequila." And he was just like straight faced, "It's Rosa." And then just walked
but
away.
like fucking with them because
But
they've
yeah,
always been cool with
messing
him.
with him, not being a dick. He was just messing with him.
Yeah, I mean, but anybody gets bent out of shape over that shit probably
No,
ain't
it
got
was he
it,
just seems like a Ronnie Dunn we talked about earlier. That's what the image I have of George. Like they say, don't meet your heroes, but I'm so confident if you meet George, he's that guy. Like he's the guy you think he is. Smooth as silk, just
Wade said he
good.
floats. Wade said he just
Yeah, oh yeah.
floats into the room. Like he doesn't walk,
I
he just
bet.
kind of floats.
I bet. I've I've never got to meet him. There's some beer joints that I've played where, like, Leroy, the bus driver, there's a place called the Cotton Club where you can, anytime, go in there, watch Bubba Cox and the Can't Hardly Play Boys play, and
Oh,
Leroy's
that's a nice name.
the drummer. Yeah, but he's a bus driver for George Strait. But like somebody like Abe Manuel, fiddle player, played for Haggard and everybody. Cage and Cat, Abe Manuel, and he's got a brother. Oh gosh, he plays for Strait right now. Plays acoustic guitar for Strait right now. And I can't for the life of me remember his name, and I'm gonna get in trouble over that. But would be staying in up top in this beer joint. One of the greatest fiddle players that played.
Yeah,
Just hanging out beer joint. You run into people. As a kid, I was going to places
Joe
like
Manuel.
that. Joe Manuel. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy. That's a guitar playing
Son of a
SOB. But Adrian, that's it. That's right. Yeah, I could play the fiddle, and I just grew up hearing stories about those kind of people, and those kind of people were like people I look forward to meeting growing up. And
you got to get to one of those golf. I don't know if you're a golfer or not. I don't know if you're a golfer or not, but like, can you hear me?
Yep. My hearing's bad.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't know if you were a golfer, but I was like, George is that golf thing we were just talking about. So I was like, you got to find a way to get into that next year, whenever the next one is. If he listens to your music, he's gonna let you. You're invited. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
I know that.
Well, I think it's kind of crazy to think he'd be listening to anything I ever done. I'm listening to what he's already did.
I don't know. It's surprising sometimes. Like, I don't know what interview was with Alan Jackson not that long ago, and he was talking about like what he listens to, or even Tim McGraw. I think like when an artist like that from that kind of genre or from that time frame, 90s on, they have like kids, then they start like the kids kind of help, I feel like, craft they get older, they're teenagers, they're older. So maybe they're hanging out with their kids on a holiday or whatever at the house, and they start playing the newer stuff. And then I think those guys go, oh yeah, okay. And then that's how they kind of get into it. That's a kind of like a theory I have, but because I don't know if is Alan Jackson sitting there on Spotify? Probably not.
I think Ronnie Dunn's daughter played him Cody Johnson.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, cowboy from Texas. Like, you got to hear this Cody Johnson guy." And his daughter showed him, and he became
my first Cody Johnson concert. I was just talking about this today. I was in high school in LaPorte, Texas. We had this thing called the Sylvan Beach Festival. He was opening up for Kevin Fowler. This is before I was on The Voice or any of that shit. So I was like I might have just had my driver's license or something, shit. I'm 16 or something, shit, And he was opening up for Kevin Fowler, and nobody, he was new, and he wasn't new. He had already been around, but he was new. And Kevin Fowler, I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to a Kevin Fowler show, but if you ain't never been to a Kevin Fowler show, you need to go. It's one of the best. I mean, he's a living, walking giant. Anyways, Cody opened up for him right there at my hometown show where they used to show their animals for the FFA livestock show. It was right there off the beach, and in the port of Houston, not like palm trees and shit. I'm talking just man-made beach with shipping containers out there in the water, in a pier you can catch good fish off of.
Not Malibu.
Not Malibu, man. Yeah, LaPorte, Texas. But man, I'll never forget that concert. Watching that stage, that Sylvan Beach Festival was such a, you play that or the Pasadena Rodeo, and that's like whoever was on that stage was important. Man, we went home and after that show and listened. It was Cody Johnson put out that different. There's a record called a different time, or I think or different something. It had Diamond in My Pocket. I got a diamond in my pocket.
I love that
Heart of
song.
gold.
A different
Zane
day.
Williams.
A different day. Yeah.
A different day. Zane Williams wrote Diamond in My Pocket. And I mean, that was huge. And that was huge for us. And Jesse Robb Jr. was a local writer out of Texas that Cody come up with, and he had cuts on that record, and he's continued to have cuts on all of Cody's records, and to me that's a testament to who that guy is and the kind of music they make and what they're about, and it don't matter who you are, it's about the song. And for me to experience a Cody Johnson uprise just in Texas and not even know it was happening, it was.
Well, you're next. I think you're next. I think you're the next one.
I will be proud. I will be proud to share the stage. I will be proud to. This ain't a hobby, this ain't something I just do for fun. It's all I know. And those guys are the same way. And so many of us are. And to have people like yourself want to support us by sharing our stories and our songs, it means a lot.
Awesome. Last thing before we let you go, and then stay on for a second. I have a question for you off the recording, but the new album, obviously we kind of talked about it a little bit, but just in general, with the tours and what the fans have to look forward to the rest of the year, new album's been awesome. Streaming it like crazy, and we're posting a lot about it, but just kind of what's your thoughts about the rest of the year and kind of like the initial reaction from the fans on your debut album there?
You know what? We're going to give them something to dance to, something to drink to, something to cry to, and something to enjoy, I hope. I'm in my situation at the moment, it's a brand new, these are new waters for me. I've never, because I've not put a record together until now, and let alone be proud of the songs that we cut, be proud to want to go out there and sing them, and do something with a label, with a conglomerate, with a team and people and all that good stuff that we all know makes the world turn. I'm proud of what we did, and I played hundreds of nights, a lot more than that, but there wasn't nobody to listen to it, or there wasn't nothing but a chance that maybe I'll do something, I'll sing something that might strike a chord with somebody, but now we've got music out now people have something to chew on, and I don't think the delivery changes at all. I think just now we're gonna keep playing them songs, and right, we might be playing, who knows what'll be happening by September, or October later on in the year. Songs get wrote every day.
Yep.
And a lot of songs don't. A lot of songs don't get wrote. There's a lot of days nothing happens, and you just can't think about that. So we're gonna play country music. We make country music. I sing country music, and that's exactly what you're gonna hear when you come out and see us.
Love it. Great way to end that.